You're learning to like that song, actually. Hi, this is Adam here. I'm with the Hear2Listen Podcast, and I'm here with Max.
Easy.
Jack.
Hello.
Leon.
Yo.
Hey. We've moved rooms, so we're kind of hoping that the sound might be a little bit better. We're aware that we've got a very wall-y room, so sometimes sound can bounce off, but, you know, we'll see. We'll get some feedback from you guys about that, I think,
Can I
about
just
how
say
it sounds.
something, Adam?
Go.
All rooms have walls.
It's very wall-y. Yes, that's a very good point. Thanks for the correction. It's very wall-y, like all rooms. This one has, certain amount of stuff not on walls, I suppose I meant to say, so there's no sound absorption. Okay, so as always, you know, we're still social distancing here. It's still in effect. We've got our hand gel down in front of us. We've periodically used masks as we're going around the office as normal. That aside, we've got a subject today that we're going for because it's quite present. Black Lives Matter is the title, let's say, at the moment, but that comes with baggage. It's a bit of a hot button thing. We're not experts. We're just going to be offering our opinions and our views, and certainly going to be referencing some of the things that we've seen, say, on social media and so on. Might even be a bit personal experience there too. The starting point, we are, I would say, 2 weeks away from the incident, shall we say?
Yeah, from the outrage, I'd say.
Okay, so being 2 weeks, there was I've seen a lot of podcasters do this as well, this inclination not to get too deep into it at that point, when it's full of emotion, when it's being battered around, all that, you know, and there's a sense of sometimes you need to leave things and reflect a little bit or monitor the stage that it's at the moment. And the stage that it's at the moment, what would we say? Where was it at the moment? Is it as fierce as it was on that first week? Is it kind of eased off?
I don't know. On social media, I'd say that it hasn't really slowed down that much. On the day that it happened, obviously my social media was flooded. It was non-stop. And then the few days after that, we had Blackout Tuesday and a few other things floating around social media. But I'd say it's still pretty hot as it was now than it was 2 weeks ago. I see something, I think it was Snoop Dogg posted, and it was more about black communities organising and communicating between each other and like building themselves up, rather than about the actual outrage and about what was going on. It's sort of like you're seeing the products of what this has become.
So solution focused,
Yeah.
rather than all the other stuff that happens before that.
Yeah.
There does seem to be a difference between the outrage and the solution, and I don't know if they're connected, but there seems to be people that favour one over the other.
100% they're connected. I've like, if this didn't happen, well, I don't know if it would have happened, but it's given people all around the world almost a reason to actually do something rather than just to let it happen. They're actually taking action to find a solution.
It's I'd say like it's opened up a space for everyone to have those awkward conversations about maybe racism and stuff like that within workplaces, structural racism, school systems, families. Yeah, like it's opened up the conversation so people can sort of maybe actually have a conversation about it, because I feel like everyone's scared to talk on it as well.
How about the difference between what we're seeing in the USA and what we're seeing in the UK? So I feel quite flooded with the USA stuff. I deliberately don't pay attention too much to news. That's just a personal preference. I don't like to kind of disrupt my normal living with like stuff that's just going to stress me out ultimately. So I do keep a certain distance from it, but I'm hearing a lot of podcasters debate and talk and maybe talk about solutions. They've had guests on that might offer a perspective as well, which has been useful for me in terms of my frame of reference, because I am white. I have a certain degree of perspective on that, but certainly not from other people's perspective. So the USA thing seems to be, right, it's all happened, there's rioting, all that. There's been defunding of the police services out there as well. I personally think that's a terrible mistake. That seems very punishing. That seems like, okay, you screwed up, we're going to take all your money away, whereas actual fact, shouldn't you be putting more money into it to train people effectively to you know, resolve solutions like that without killing people?
But that's what they've been doing, have they not? They've been training people to do what they're supposed to be doing, but it's not been happening.
Well, in America,
yeah,
this might not be true. Apparently, you need more training hours-wise to be a hairdresser than you do to be a police officer.
I was listening to
How does that make sense?
Rogan's podcast this morning. I had Jocko Willink on there, who's a sort of extreme winner, ex-Navy SEAL, very solution-focused. You know, the guys from the military, it's all about, like, let's not lose our heads here. Let's, like, put a plan in action. So he seems to be quite in it at the moment. And he did say that there's around, he said something like 2 hours a year of, like, police training. Most people are just sort of like, you got the job, well done, here's a little bit of an induction and off you go. And he was talking about it from a leader point of view, because that's very much about what he does and the leadership that is needed sometimes when people start losing their head through emotions. Sometimes they look for, like, okay, what do we do? And he imagined a lot of police are in that position, like, something's gone off, I'm on my own, maybe I've got a partner if I'm lucky, what do we do? And so they're very much in a reactionary point of view, and what they're seeing in the media as well is also cops losing their lives as well, and how there's a speculation about cops just getting PTSD, like, and they walk into every day with this like heightened sense of, am I going to die today? Am I going to see my family? Because of what they've seen as well, which might inform some of the reactions beyond just, say, racism.
So with defunding the police, I don't know if that is the right answer, but I do know America's got a history of underfunding and systematically underfunding like sort of certain communities and stuff like that. So that, and therefore there becomes no opportunity, because poverty, wherever you are in the world, so you could be in London, you could be in Glasgow, you could be America, Mexico, New York, where there's poverty breeds crime. So if certain areas and certain maybe racial classes are underfunded systematically anyway, and they're redirecting money to that will provide opportunities for them. So then hopefully there'll be less crime. So instead of treating it as a threat, they're treating it from maybe a spot of compassion. So instead of saying, oh, we need the police there to control them, they're saying if we can fund them, we can stop young people getting into crime, stuff like that, because of poverty before they even get to that point of committing crime. So if you had extra, so let's say you had cheaper rent, less stress on the young people growing up in that area, they're going to be more able to chase the opportunities instead of being dragged down by all like not being able to eat, not being able to pay rent, not being able to heat the house, and they're able to do it. So, but I don't know if defunding the police is the correct thing. But I do understand if you grow up in poverty, it's a lot easier to turn to a life of crime than if you grew up where you got food on your plate, you got dinner.
So you're saying defunding the police is good if the money's redirected into invested into communities that need it almost?
I don't know. I'm not saying that's the right answer. I'm just saying if they are directing it to poorer communities, it will create better opportunities for them. Like, because no one grows up wanting to go into a life of crime.
You say that though, and I'm going to go against that because I've worked with many young people that actually think it's cool. They watch things like Top Boy and that's what they want to be. They want to be a roadman. And I'm talking 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, Health to Mind, for example, some of the students we've worked with, they thrive to be Top Boy. They want to be that.
But why do they want to be that guy?
Yeah, and I suppose if you dig deeper...
And Max, you think about it, what areas are those young people from? Are they from rich areas where they have everything they want, or are they from poverty areas?
True, it's true. So they've seen that spark, they've seen what they could have easy, for what looks like to be easy. So actually, I take that back. I do take
Rewind.
That back. But... again, I'm going to go against it, just from personal experience this time, because I used to think, actually, as a little ute, when I was listening to the drum and bass and going raving on a regular, thinking I was a little bit of a roadman, I actually, I had food on the table. There was no reason for me to want to do that and get into X, Y, and Z, but actually there was something about that looked, and it all comes down to the things that you can gain easily, and the money and the glamour side of it, doesn't it? I think that's what
your
it
status.
is. The status, yeah.
And so, because you didn't have any sort of, well, you said you have food on your table and stuff like that.
Yeah, we were looking
now look at the position you're in now. So what I'd also say, as young adults, as young men, young females maybe, at that age, it's it's sort of sold to the younger generation as something that's cool and something that's in to do, like the in thing to do. But when they get to, I'd say, late 20s, that's no longer what they want to do.
They're stuck.
But if you, let's say you are from a area where you don't have any other opportunities, and you're twice as more likely to go to prison than other people, then where are you going to go? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So because you've got an out, you've always got a family to go back to, and whatever happens, you're going to be.
It's not that as well. It reminds me of like the some of the activities that we do, and we often say that you're all going to follow each other in this activity. I guarantee you all end up doing what the other person next to you is doing. Do your own thing, but by the end of this activity, you'll all be doing it. And it happens every single time. And when you're brought up in that environment as well, it's hard, even if they do get to that age where they want to then get out, if everyone's still doing it, they're ficking with the family. To break away from that, you've got to be, we work with a guy from St Giles Trust, very much broke away from that sort of scene and that sort of gang life, sort of crime sort of culture. But that takes a strong-minded person to do that. Not everyone's got the willpower, the mentality to do that, because it's hard. It is really hard.
I'm reminded of one of the guys that we work with who he seemed to set his ambition as being a drug dealer, and it was an opinion that was based around it being probably the easiest route to money is seemed to be his approach. This is a guy that would also seem to have a complete lack of belief in himself. I don't know if you remember him, Max, but he was the guy that if he got a bit stuck with a task, he would throw his dolly out the pram and he'd just go, right, I can't do this. He had such a lack of belief in himself to do some of the most basic tasks. And I wonder if that transfers to like, well, I'm not going to I'm incapable of getting a job. I'm incapable of like existing in normal society. It's not for me. So I'll go with this other thing that seems like the easiest route, it is quick money. There's no doubt about it, but obviously the risk that comes with it. And it seemed to be somewhat bringing along another group member that was sort of just as bad in the sense of they just bounced off each other and tended to exacerbate that. So from a psychological point of view, I wondered if some of the features around poverty is the lack of feeling like there's opportunities and the lack of it's not for me.
Well, if they're coming from broken homes and stuff like that, whatever race, wherever you're from, wherever in the world, and you're chasing easy money, that's probably the route that you're going to take. Because if you're not getting the opportunities, so like, let's say you go for a job, you don't get it, but a few of your other mates who live on the other side of town, they're all doing well, they're getting nice cars, but like what you don't know, their parents might be paying for their cars, and then they've just got they don't even have to pay rent. But then if you're coming from a poor background, you've got to pay like £200-300 a month for rent, and then you've got a little bit of money to yourself, like you might have to pay for food for your family as a young person, and then you're seeing other people on the other side of town have got everything, even though you've grown up with these same kids, and they've got nice cars.
It's going to be hard, really, really hard.
Yeah, and then if you see a route that you think I could easily get to that, you're going to take it.
And even if you think, if I can just make £200-300 a month extra cash in hand, that's going to make my life so much better.
Right, just to change subject quick, to go back to Black Lives Matter, what do you think about the media and what they've been showing?
Go on.
So this is coming from Facebook. When I went on there, they were all reposting things saying the Black Lives Matter riots, how can this happen, blah, 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 the message is being lost, all this sort of stuff. Basically trying to almost, take away the movement of it and turning it into a riot, into like just a massive outrage, like you said earlier. And then when I see all this stuff about is it the right wing that went up there to protect the statues? All of them up there, all I see was shared posts of like patriots going to protect the statue, all this stuff, like only positive messages. And then I went on my other social media and all it was negative. Like it was just saying that all the right wing protesters, all they did is get drunk and beat up police, all this sort of stuff. And that just shows to me the propaganda that is getting fed, getting shown all of the negative things that are happening with the Black Lives Matter protests. And then they're getting shown all the positive things that are happening with the right wing.
That was going to lead me on to what I was
Welcome
going to say.
to British media.
Well, this is it. Because Adam said earlier he stays away from the news. And I was going to ask why, first of all, but I think I know why. Similar to myself, it's just all negative. Is that the reason for you, or is it just...
It's just never good. Not necessarily negative, but it doesn't help me.
Well,
it doesn't inform my life in any way.
You can't make an opinion factually, because there is exactly what Jack just said. There's so many different types, and we're allowed to say fake news, and everyone knows there's fake news around.
Yeah, 100%.
And what you just said, it's the far right, they call them, don't they? It's the far right. Or
I can't remember the name. LDN?
I don't know. But
EDL.
Basically, my wife showed me a video. This was last week, and this is why I don't watch social media news or any of that stuff. And it was those guys, whatever you call them,
the hooligans.
It was them literally going mental, chucking things at the police, trying to beat up the police, punch the police. And in the background it's going, we are racist, we are racist. After about 15 seconds, the loop starts again. It's a loop. The visuals was from the movements happening in London,
but the
audio and the chants wasn't. But someone that edits a little bit picked it up straight away. Like Sarah was baffled that it was looped.
Why would you do that?
Why would someone do that?
All you're trying to do is start
create hate
and get people. All right, divide and conquer. They're trying to divide and conquer the people. Don't let it happen. Right, we are one.
It should be.
Yeah, but yeah, British media has been guilty.
It's not just British media though, man.
It's not just British media.
It's the media, apart from us.
It's the media that I know the best. So it's probably I can bring up the best examples on. One I did read about. Do you remember Linford Christie? Mm-hmm. So he's a gold medal runner. So like all of his achievements in running his whole life, and the only thing the media would put in the newspaper is about his package. I don't know if you remember that, Adam.
Yeah, vaguely. Yeah.
And then he broke down and cried on TV. So that's just like one example, like a positive black man, just bringing down, just like only he cried on national TV. So basically, he was an Olympic runner, gold medalist.
You know that.
What do you mean his package?
Just interested about the package.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh damn!
His lunchbox.
And that was his lunchbox. That was the only thing that the British media would focus on, and instead of like just focusing on his achievements.
To be fair, there is worse things to be in the media about.
There is.
But he don't.
I do get your point. No, I do get your point.
In his, every other week, he's in the paper for having a big package and not being a running athlete.
Yeah.
As someone, like I say, it doesn't pay that much attention, I might have to draw on your guys' experience a little bit. Going back to the kind of USA versus UK versus, I don't know if that's really the right word, but there's an experience that's happening in the USA and they reacted accordingly based on their own history, let's say, and evidence of that. But we've also seen discord in the UK, but I'm not sure you could have the same argument. Can you have the same argument that the police are racist and that they treat minorities in a particular way that draws that attention?
In America, it's very much that is the case, and it's broadcasted all over social media. I watched an interview with some policeman from the States, and he's basically lost his job now from going against the police force. He was quite high up. I think it was Jack that actually said
he lost his job.
You sent me the interview. It was on Instagram. This guy talking in a car, he had all his uniform on, basically just slating the American police and saying like, I'll probably lose my job for this, blah, blah, blah. He did obviously lose his job, but he was just saying that it's illegal what they are doing, not just the racist side of things that he's witnessed and experienced. The fact when lockdown was happening, how the police were treating civilians, arresting them, fining them for doing things that they actually had to be doing, but just because they'd been told that they had to do it. And he's like, I'm not doing it. I'm literally not doing it. Put his hands in the air, I'm not doing it anymore.
So going back to the UK, have you seen that in the UK?
I've not seen much.
I'd say we live in quite a rural area where it's mainly white. So it's probably hard for even myself, as being mixed race, half Jamaican, half white, because we don't live in areas where there's a lot of black people, Asian people really at all. So it's hard for us to say here, because if I got pulled over here, I would just be like, well, it's just getting pulled over. But if you look in like the statistics in like London and stuff, so if you're going to do a stop and search, so I feel like stop and search is something to... What sort of people do you think they're going to try and stop and search?
Black people are the ones that get stopped the most. What I'm saying is the only people that should be getting stopped for stop and search...
The ones wearing night tracksuits.
No, not even that. So this is what really upsets me, man, because I've got a personal story again in regards to the way that people look. Now, if you've got suspicion that they're actually doing something or they are wanted or anything, you stop and search them. But guy I used to know, he had a thing against tracksuits and flat caps, and I very much used to wear tracksuits and flat caps. Wouldn't let me in his house if I was wearing one. I didn't know this. But found out a few months later. That's why I don't really have much to do with him no more. But anyway, but it's just madness. But yeah, I know what the stats say, Leon. It's wrong. It's all wrong. How many people do you think get pulled over or stopped? I'm not just talking about black people. It's all people, all races, all religions, every person. But there's bound to be, I don't know how many people get pulled over, stop and search on a daily, but there's got to be some that, all right, weren't doing anything at the time, but they're involved in something. Do you know what I mean?
If they've never been arrested,
that's
don't
wrong.
have any drugs or weapons on them. How do you know that?
But if there's previous and stuff, I'm going to say they're not all wrong. Do you know what I mean? Even if they've not...
Police officers that are stopping these kids don't know that. There's no way for them to know that.
Well, do you know what they do? They used to do in London. This is, again, passed down for me. I don't know if this is gospel, but they used to play snooker. And they literally used to pick red car, coloured car, red car, coloured car, and just go around like the pool balls or snooker balls on a table. They'd do it in the format that they was playing a game of snooker, and they'd just literally randomly pull cars over.
Yeah, but
that would be more fair.
In an ideal world, that is what you'd like it to be. Maybe random. Unfortunately,
it's not.
Like it's genuinely not. Like there's not. You can't defend it really. It's genuinely not. Yeah. So
I don't know what the rates are in England, but I was having this argument with my dad. So we saw some stats that basically said that more black people in America are shot and killed than white people by police when they're not armed or whatever. And my dad, what did he say? He made a point, and I said, yeah, but the reason that doesn't work is because black people only represent 13% of the American community. So if they're getting killed at if they're more percentage getting killed than white people, then that proportion's completely out. Like, they're clearly killing more black people than they are white in proportion. But then my dad got the other stats up he actually sent them to me on WhatsApp, and it was a police officer. It might have been obviously trying to reach a certain agenda and sell to a certain type of person. But he was saying that black people commit 70% of the crime compared to white people. So in proportion, they are actually more in contact with police than the rest of the communities.
Yeah, but they might only have them stats if they only pulling black people over and arresting black people. They
definitely. Yeah, definitely. I mean? But that's what I said to my dad. I was like, yeah, but again, what you said, if you're living in a like in America, I'm pretty sure, I might be completely wrong, but I'm pretty sure they have communities where it's just a black community, isn't it?
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, and these places are systematically oppressed, like you say, like they're hard to get jobs, hard to earn money, hard to get food on the table, that sort of stuff. So clearly they're going to be into crime more. And that's what I was trying to tell my dad and trying to sort of explain to him, because he's saying that none of this needs to go on. He believes that racism is very little. He's like, well, I'm not racist. But I'm like, Dad, you clearly can see that there's racism going on. Yeah. And he might say, oh, yeah, now and then, but everyone's racist to everyone. He's like, when I was in Germany, everyone hated me. He's like, I lived in Germany for 2 years. He's like, I used to go to jobs. We used to get kicked out of bars because he was English. He's like, it's just how it is. He's like, that's the way the world will always be. And I just say, Dad, well, we're trying to make that change, but you won't have none of it.
On that though, do you think with anything that anyone could do, with all this stuff that happens, do you think we're ever going to distinguish racism completely?
No.
When you've got the far right, you're never going to do it, because they're not the only racist group out there, let's be honest. There's other people that are racist against other... Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. The only way this will stop is if a meteor hits the earth and we all die.
Going back to that point there, Jack, it's someone trying to justify... say black people maybe being more into crime, more into violence. Now, if that was true, in the top 50 cities in the world, there's only 2 black countries that are in there for violence. So like murder rates and stuff like that. So the highest murder rates has only got 2 black countries in out of 50. And that's South Africa, which is mainly owned by white people, and Jamaica, which is the wealth is all owned by white people as well. So, and the rest of them are all white cities. So if like one of the safest cities, like say, what's the one in Ghana? I can't remember what it's called, but Ghana anyway itself has as much crime rate as Belgium, which is seen as really, really safe. So and that is generically where all Ghana, Nigeria and stuff like that is where sort of most of the slaves came from when they went to America and the Caribbean and stuff like that. So if they were all so violent, why are they not violent in their own countries?
How do you know
they're not?
How do you know? How do we know any of this is right? Wrong? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't see what you're saying.
How do we?
Statistically, they are safer than a lot of the top 50 white cities.
Could just a little bit devil's advocate here, but could that be part of the poverty level being quite across the board in countries like that, where there isn't such a disparity between the wealthy and the poor? The vast majority would be poor and therefore wouldn't see what other people have got, and then
is the vast majority poor though?
I don't know. That was a complete.
But this is another common misconception of African countries. Like people think because in British media,
it's always shown
every single advert. If you watch daytime TV, every half an hour you're going to see like African kids that are hungry and starving. In reality, they've got cities and hospitals, doctors, everything there. So it's not, the reality is not what you're being shown.
And just to put it out there, most places that are in poverty in Africa or places like that are only in poverty because of the minerals that certain companies are taking for them and not paying them enough money.
iPhones.
So really, if you really want this whole agenda to start, we need to start looking at the whole world.
How are we going to change it, boys? How are we going to do this?
It starts with a podcast.
Jack, you're right though, because without racism, you couldn't have an iPhone. You couldn't have cheap clothes.
Literally.
Because where the minerals come from Africa, and there's kids that mine the glass to put in your phone. And if racism didn't exist, because you'd never ever have
racism or slavery.
Both.
If racism didn't exist, it could be slavery. Well,
I guess it all comes under one umbrella, doesn't it?
That's slavery.
It's probably more I'd probably call it more colonialism.
Yeah.
If that didn't exist, so you'd never get poor white kids digging out of ground and not eating and like dying in caves and stuff like that, digging stuff out, because there'd be pure outrage across.
What do you reckon, Leon? Because you are right there. Like right this day and age, if there was that going on, people would be signing petitions and stuff like that to get it gone. But if everyone was one colour, do you think the human race would have still oppressed a certain group of people? Because it's happened in...
Oh, yeah.
That's what I mean. So, like, it's not always down to racism. Because that's the same point I made with my dad. Because I told him about this and he said, yeah, but Jack, he's like, we did go over and we did kill and slaughter thousands of people. He's like, and we took people, we made them our slaves. He's like, but before then, we had Vikings coming over to us, raping and killing our women and killing us and making us slaves. He's like, it was just the way the world was back then. But then you think about it, it's only 100 years ago.
Yeah. But it has, obviously it's nothing like it was. And this is what I was going to say actually, because obviously I've heard bits and bobs. There's been statues that have been taken down. I don't know what all the statues were that have been taken down. I know there's been some that's been on social media. You boys might be able to enlighten me a little bit. Dad did say something to do, talking about slaves and stuff, and he's like, well, I don't think it's right. He's like, but what are they going to do? Go to Egypt and take down the pyramids? Because they were slaves that built them.
But they weren't slaves.
They weren't, they were aliens.
Were they? Aliens.
They were apparently, new evidence suggests that they were actually paid for their work.
Were they?
Yeah, apparently.
But that's the evidence that you've been shown by who? The media? And I was going to say also, like...
Well, Leon's wrong and you're wrong. So I'm telling you now, the precision the pyramids had, they were built by aliens. Let's just stop that there, because that's a conversation.
If you believe what Jack's saying, put a comment down in the section below. Aliens. Hashtag aliens.
You get a 10-ton brick on a couple logs, and pull them up 200 metres. I've been to the pyramids, mate. I see how big they are. Build them with your bare hands, I'd be very surprised.
How close did you get to the pyramids?
Close enough that the guy with the AK was looking at me.
Close. Was it close enough to realise it was green screen that you was looking at?
Well, yeah.
It was an
just
illusion.
Put my hand through it.
It wasn't even
it was
there.
just a painting on a big wall.
Oh, I don't. But no, so what happened? So someone in like this, as all the statues and that, someone tell me,
The one mainly on in
Bristol.
Bristol. Summit Colston, his name was. So although he did build, I believe he helped bring a load of wealth to Bristol and basically put Bristol on the map.
And took hundreds of people, I don't know if it's thousands, but hundreds of people out of poverty. But again, like we're saying, he'd done this massive deed on the bodies of other people almost.
So he sent 84,000 people across to the Americas.
So they're saying that although he would have got thousands of people, let's say I don't know, taking a wild guess because I don't know the fact, let's say 10,000 people. He got 10,000 people out of poverty to live a good life. He supplied them with jobs, food on the table, that sort of stuff. So he's a hero back in England. But does he deserve to be on the stand as for someone to look up to, because he'd done his great achievement on the bodies of 85,000 people? Women, children, men. Most of them probably would have died horrible deaths, beaten. So is he someone that young kids should point at and go, oh, who's this man? Oh, he got loads of people out of poverty. Oh, how did he do that?
The thing is that kids wouldn't look up to him and see he did it off the back of 84,000 people.
No, they would be told
they would look, he brought wealth into Bristol, and this is what good he done here.
Yeah.
So it could be completely whitewashed about his dark side
that's
of history.
Everything is though. I think we've come to that conclusion of this conversation just now, this morning, literally, that we are conditioned in a way that we only see what we're allowed to see. And we're shown, and what we're taught in schools and all the rest of it in history. That's all like it's going to change now, surely. And it's like, why are we told the things that we're told?
Yeah, but I don't think it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing that happened, but I don't mind learning about it. I'm not embarrassed what this guy done or what the white people done back there, because it's nothing to do with me. Don't hold me responsible. So I'm happy to learn. Like that guy, if he was in a museum, and you got to read about the great thing he done, but how he done it and the devastation that he caused, I wouldn't think that was a bad thing. It's all part of history, isn't it? You should definitely learn about it, but it shouldn't be in the middle of a town centre for everyone to go, what an amazing man.
I've had this thought occur to me as well. It's like, why are there statues at all? It just occurred to me, what is the point of statues? Okay, so there might be an educational point of view, but the education could be easily found in Wikipedia or whatever. Do you know, there's loads of places that you can find it. So I was trying to think about what the point was. So, and also what work goes into it. Somebody's got to pay for that. Where's that come from? what sort of budgets that come from. Okay, as a bid writer myself, maybe I'm part of some sort of arts council that goes, right, we need to recognise this individual. Can you give us a load of money to stick a statue in the middle of somewhere? And I just thought, why are they because I'm pretty sure that the individual, unless they're really egotistical, probably wouldn't really want one anyway, because a lot of people that do good work usually don't like a huge amount of recognition for it. So, I mean, I know they're there, and it's like, we can't change that, but I was just like, why are there even statues in the first place?
I think it's just a different time. So like now we see celebrities and famous people on our phones.
Memes.
Back then, yeah, exactly, memes. Back then, I'd say, well, was that statue 110 years old or something?
Yeah, old enough. Older before social
Were
media.
they alive when them statues were built, do you think?
So 110 years
No.
old, like a statue I could see being put up, so then people could see who it was. And then, but how, like you're saying with the school system and stuff like that, it just doesn't teach the whole history. And I don't think it does achieve a lot, as in like, I feel like it's people sort of accepting like British colonialism happened and it was bad. But removing the statues to me is not a big deal. It's more if you teach what those people actually did represent. Yeah. But then there's also the argument, whereas a memorial is something like of a hero,
heroic figure.
Yeah, heroic figure that people should look up to. So it's a bit on either side, but at the same time, like if even Winston Churchill, like it's just
I've seen that one pop up quite a bit. A lot of people backing Churchill saying he's done X, Y, Z, all this, that, and the other. Like apparently posts have been taken down with his image on. Is that correct?
Don't know.
I'm not too sure.
Don't know about that.
I don't know all the facts, but I do know he was mad racist. But
weren't most people at that time anyway?
But most people were at that time. So, and also, we might have needed a mad racist to defeat another mad racist.
Yeah, literally. See, that's what I mean. You respect what he done.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. I don't care that he was racist. I'm still like, Churchill was still a G. Still done it for our country, innit? And he was racist. But if that was taught to you, so like, Churchill, he's done this, but back in them days, racism was quite common. He was an avid racist. These are some of the things that he'd done, blah, blah. And you learn about it, yeah? And you accept it, and you know who that man was a little bit more, rather than just saying Churchill's a hero, and then some people saying, well, he's racist.
He was also a mad sexist as well, so he didn't even want women to vote. And he said he would not be henpecked.
Yeah, but again, back in that era, back in that time, women didn't have equal rights.
Nah, there'll be women out here defending him.
Yeah.
So there could be a theory that Winston Churchill's children's children, whatever generation we're at the moment, probably aren't racist, or certainly not as racist as their great grandfather, right? Going back to the point that we raised earlier about how do you fix it, it seems to be about individuals, but there's part of that is combating the upbringing side of things as well.
It's how you
raise. And I'm kind of relating to that a little bit. I think maybe it's a good time to get into a bit of personal experience, but part of I'm not racist, and I'm not just saying that as a white guy just to deflect, my real racism, whatever going on. It's just I wasn't brought up that way. Do you know what I mean?
I've got a black friend.
I'm quite.
I think everyone
let me
can
finish,
be a little
please.
bit racist.
I don't want to get caught up in that. Like my dad, I'm not going to say is racist, but it had some old school values, let's say.
And can I just
go on?
Like, because I feel
like I'm digging a hole here.
No, don't worry. So like how I see it as a mixed race guy, because I had to sort of do a lot of reading into this because I wasn't taught proper history at school. It was all black people's history started at slavery. So I had to sort of go back and do some reading on. So our generation, 100 years ago, well, not our generation, so 100 years ago, we're literally being told they're superior to other races.
Mm-hmm.
So
I saw that in a TV show recently.
So as their grandkids like if you live in a white area where you don't have, let's say, Asian friends, black friends or anything like that, then those ideals are going to be inherited. So then I'm at the point now whereas I can't blame people for being ignorantly racist, because I feel like once they get to know people and have chat with people and they're exposed to other cultures and stuff like that, they're very open to making new friends and stuff like that anyway. But as an old, like, I don't know, I can't be angry at old white ladies, old white men for being so racist, because I feel like that's what they've been taught.
I was about to say, it's like...
Do they know any different?
Yeah, it's like it's actually been like impregnated in their brain. Yeah, conditioned. It is, because like many people I know, I'm not going to name any names. He's telling me, he was drunk, all right? So that's why I'm not naming any names, but he's telling me he's not racist, but I would rather not have a black baby. Like one of his kids having a black baby. And I'm like, how can you say you're not racist if you're making comments like that? Like there must be something that's in your brain that is racist, that is making you feel a certain way. And you might not think that you don't like people because of the colour of their skin, but clearly you do. Clearly there's something going on, I don't know what it is.
Like Leon said, with the guy that you're talking about, his age, so he's a lot older than us.
Yeah.
So he's going to be conditioned from his parents, because they would have very much been, like Leon said, like the older generation back in the day, and it's conditioned into their brains. They don't know no different. My granddad's probably the same deep down. Don't speak to him about it, but I know deep down the older generations, because they're conditioned, like I keep saying, they've been conditioned.
We're gonna let Adam finish.
I feel like we justified your next bit now.
Yeah, that's it. I got I mean, it's surprising to me to hear that there's people in your generation or just above that are still racist. It's
thing is, think where we live. We live in predominantly white areas, which haven't been influenced.
It's so
culture.
white that my friend at school would call Black Sam.
okay.
And he was happy with that. And that goes through to the other years. I've known people that have been nicknames.
And
and
most
stuff,
people's experience of black and brown people are from the British media.
Okay, fair point that there's a high proportion of white in this community, which, as a counterpoint to that, if you're in a school with very few from minority groups, wouldn't that generate more racism? Because they'd be different. They'd be like individuals. They'd be picked on or whatever. Okay, so I don't think that necessarily that argument stands up quite.
The fact that Jack had someone in school called Black Sam.
Well, apart from that, thanks. Yeah, that really highlights it. So that would mean that it's, even though we're predominantly white, there's still racism.
So this is the thing I'd say. So racism, it might not even come from a place of hate of calling him Black Sam. Because as kids, they might just not know any better. Because if they got... Now it is different. Like now, for me personally, it's different in this area, and like sort of growing up in sort of white areas. Whereas I know like everyone would say I've got a black friend, but there was a lot of people like generation before mine that would be called like Black Kevin, Black Jack.
Is that because there were lots of Kevins and Sams, and the only reason I can think that is because you've got to distinguish.
So that is why he was Black Sam. We've got like 4 friends that are called Sam, and obviously he was the only black. Oh, I think there was maybe 3 or 4, but he was the only black guys that we were sort of really close with. So he just took that name on. Like now he's called Samo. Shout out Samo, look him up. But it's just how it started, man. It's
But so as an individual, how do you think that would make you feel?
Not good, man. Not good.
Being the only person in your school that is called by your colour.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. With the other 3 Sams called, Ginger Sam and, Fat Sam, and they weren't. They were just called Sam B or
Fat Sam's a good one.
Fat Sam. But it's horrible, isn't it, when you think about it? And I can experience exactly the same. There was, I'm not going to say their names because they're definitely still local and stuff, but exactly the same situation. Girl, in 3 years older than me, she was 3-4 years older than me. Sorry, I'm not about to say her name then, but black in front of her name, and then there was another guy again, black in front of his name. And you're looking back, that's what 20 odd years ago. That's racist. Like that is bad. And for an individual to be going home, like you said, going, I'm being referred to as my colour, then my name. That's horrible. Yeah, that's horrible.
And as young people in like themselves, they probably don't even think they're doing anything wrong.
No.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean. We never used it as like an insult. Like it wasn't like, like you say it as if you're sort of taking the mickey. It was almost like people call me Ricey. Like it was almost like just a nickname. But obviously, it is a racist nickname. Like, but you don't mean to say it in a racist way.
I know what you're saying.
But then, like for me, that then it's not too far from saying, "Oh yeah, you like chicken because you're black." Like it's not too far from that.
Nah.
From like a black joke or a casual black joke or something like that.
Yeah.
At the time, because he's a young man trying to fit in school, it's hard to fit in as it is. You're gonna try not to be triggered by that, because then it's probably easy for people to get onto that and know how to sort of trigger
probably pick on you as well. Yeah.
So it's easier to laugh it off. So even though he might not be showing age triggered, as a young man, he's probably angry
I
inside.
don't doubt for a second that that's playing on minds of loads of people that have gone through that, probably to this day.
I can say that myself now, yeah.
Did you have similar sort of experience yourself?
So probably just like generalizations, like, you should like this music because you're mixed race, basically, stuff like that.
Was it ABBA and stuff like that?
You know music.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah, Robbie Williams.
All right,
and all that.
I've got one down that we've spoke about this millions of times. Same thing, Sam, if you do listen to this, I'm sorry I keep referencing you, but people touching your hair. I know Leon said that it used to really annoy him.
Can I touch it? Yeah. I actually got in a fight with someone for pulling my hair when I was at school.
But like
there's a difference in touching and pulling, let's be honest.
Yeah, but I remember you saying to me that it used to annoy you, and then it brought me back, and I'm like, oh my God, I remember going up to Samo all the time and just grabbing him on the back of the head and go, And I just used to think it was funny, and he'd be like, "Get off!" And we used to just mess around in that. But when I think about it, it would get so annoying.
Yeah. Or can I touch it? Because it's an afro.
Yeah.
I get that with my beard though. I quite like it.
But as young kids, in your head, that's not.
You're not doing anything wrong. You're just doing something, isn't it?
But you don't understand how that. But yeah, but you're not because the other person's maybe. I'm just speaking from a personal point of view because I grew up. There was probably 3 black kids in my year. So the other people, they just wouldn't understand it. So then you wouldn't feel like you have a right to sort of get annoyed by it.
Yeah.
Did you feel that isolation then? I know that you say there's only 3, but did you feel like separate or?
Good question. I didn't, but I feel like I grew up in a different generation. There might have been times, probably when I was a bit younger, I'd say, and a bit less aware of being brown, basically. So say reception. I remember one of my earliest memories, and I know this guy now, and I can completely understand how he grew up, why he might have said something like that as a little white kid. It was like, in reception, knowing you get little girlfriends.
Yeah.
He was like, she's not going to like you because you're brown.
Yeah.
And I swear, I remember it so vividly. I had a dream that week where I dreamt that I was white. It was so weird. So that's my earliest memory.
Was there a part of you then that felt that the dating market would be slightly less full as a result of the colour of your skin?
I don't know what I thought back when I was
Then he got to 18 and realised that it gave him powers.
And then second, probably I remember going to my friend's house, and he's got his dad's from America.
No.
And he was like, he was from America, but he come over when he was very young, so he had English accent and stuff like that. And he's like, he's a builder, and he's like, look at your skin, and pinched it, and he was like, you're all dirty. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, you're all dirty, you're brown. I was like, I just didn't think nothing, at the time.
So how old was you at the time?
I must have been 7, 8.
Who was you with?
I can't name drop.
No. But I was friends with your friend.
I was friends with his son.
Okay, yeah.
So that's what I mean, man. But that there, yeah, as his son was probably sitting there, what's going on in it? Why is my dad doing this? And he's obviously adopting some of those things that his dad said, and he's probably like you said, name dropping now. He's probably doing stuff like that subconsciously now. How imagine saying that to a kid? Imagine saying that to a kid.
Imagine one of Mason's mates coming round and me saying that. That's mental.
That is mental.
The thing is, that's mad.
But that's what I mean when people say racism doesn't exist. It exists in those sort of ways there. Although that might not be violent or attacking you per se, but that's something that you'll sit there and you'll be
that's something I'll remember till the day I die.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. When you said about being racist, I'm not racist and stuff, and I said everyone has been racist at one point in their time, whether they admit it or not. I don't care. I'm going to make that statement. It might even be when you're on a phone to someone, or it might be a call centre or something, and you can't fully understand what the other person's saying. You say, "Oh, can I speak to someone English, please?" That's racist. That's racist. Every single one of us has probably done some sort of act.
No, I don't know if that is racist. I'm going to have to go against you here, Max, again, because if you can't understand someone and you're asking someone that speaks with a better accent, that's not racist.
Are they trying to understand, or are they just not happy that they're not speaking to someone that they can fully...
Well, that depends. Are you speaking from personal views?
I've heard a lot. I've heard it a lot, man. I've heard it a lot. There's a song made about it. It's on YouTube. Everyone's a little bit racist sometimes. Yeah, I think it was actually Dad that showed me.
He does come out with that statement a lot.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think it was on Family Guy as well, and whether we like to admit it, it's thick. It's everywhere. It's not as harsh in some places. Like you said, there's certain things that are said like a pinch of salt, and it doesn't come from a horrible place. However, on paper, that's racism, right? Yeah. It's still there, and we're never, ever, ever going to get rid of that. It's the far right and the activists, the ones that are causing all the problems. So that's what. I
suppose, yeah. So let's say an American would say, "Oh, you're English. You might like tea."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So let's say, you come to America.
Is that stereotypical or racist though?
Yeah, I suppose it's not really.
Yeah, it's hard to distinguish between stereotypes.
It could be. Let's say that wouldn't be a problem. But then it would be a problem if everyone that drinks tea all of a sudden is not allowed in cafes. So if you're a white English person, it's not allowed tea. You're not allowed to drink tea in our cafes. Then that would become a problem. But that's that sort of. Right.
I see what you mean. That's a nice link there.
Trying to.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So, for me, stereotypes, I don't know. Like the stereotype, right, of white guys being wet. You know when it's just like a wet white guy, yeah? I wouldn't ever get offended by that. Like when people say, "Oh, you're so white," or like that is so white.
White men can't jump.
Yeah, yeah, but that's what I mean. But stuff like that, yeah, like for me, it doesn't actually hurt me. But that's because I've come from a place where like nothing's ever sort of knocked my confidence in that way. Almost like no one's ever said that in a malicious way, or it's always been a joke. No one's ever said anything nasty to me, unless obviously they hate me, but in a way out of nowhere. Whereas imagine if you see a random person and they just come up to you and say something horrible, hateful, you'd be like, what the hell? Like, all right, I've got one. People say it don't exist. Went into a pub, local pub, yeah, I'd been there for years, literally used to sleep in it when I was a kid. Went in there with Samo. We're sitting down there, some guy comes up to us, he's like, what are you doing bringing him in here? Like when Sam's not in it. And I was like, what? And he's like, what are you doing bringing him in here? And obviously he's went, Samo's come back, and we've said to Samo, like, oh my God, this guy's come over being an
How recent was this?
2 years ago, probably 4 years ago now.
No way.
Yeah. And he came up to him, was just like, yeah, and said that. And obviously Sam felt uncomfortable, so he wanted to leave. So then we leave. But like, clearly it still does go on all the time.
And that's what I mean. Do you think it'll ever stop? Like,
no.
I'd love for us all to get on and be, you know, I don't want to go down the conspiracy road, but united, one world, not one world order, but one world, one society. We're people.
But imagine
we bleed, right?
Imagine if all of the brain power that has been put on war and racism and
negative social media
and all of that stuff. Imagine if all that brain power was put to world hunger and energy saving and how to have a sick Saturday afternoon on a surfboard, mate. Just stupid stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, community-based stuff.
Community-based stuff, yeah, just it'd be so much better. But we don't. We're humans. I saw another thing the other day, said that if aliens were to invade humans, which they reckon that they're already watching us, like loads of stuff's coming out, said that they would never ask to join us because of the way that we act with each other. Obviously, like racism, wars, how we just destroy the planet, all that sort of stuff. It said rather than that, they'd have to inspect our planet, they'd find out what minerals we got, and they'd make the decision to leave us to sort of burn out on our own or to invade and take all our stuff. There is no other left or right, which I sort of agree with that. No one wants to work with us. They see how we work with ourselves.
We're like vermin.
Yeah, we are.
Aliens. We're vermin.
Like we got to kill them before they get intergalactical and start spreading like a disease.
Well, I watched something on Netflix a fair few months back now, and they reckon that might have to cut this, I'm not too sure, but this documentary claims that the American government are planning a fake alien invasion.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Have you seen that?
Yeah. There's an actual movie of it.
It's believable, Adam. You can shake your head,
Force.
right? It is believable. They've actually created the shuttle. They created a UFO 50 years ago, a flying disc type air shuttle the government built, and it looks identical to what we would believe a UFO looks like. Why do we believe a UFO looks like a flying disc?
Because they've imprinted it onto our brains.
And we've been
years.
Conditioned to believe so.
Seen Paul?
Simple shamans.
Yeah, so along those lines.
Yeah.
So, well, for conspiracy, I think I might have seen it on Rogan. I don't know. And he's saying like, so what we need to become part of the Galactic Federation, apparently there's one out there, if there is one out there, is more docile. So like we have to be more controlled. So that's why they're trying to say like society is trying to take us in a direction where we're more controlled. So then we don't identify as like, so at the minute, like let's say America example, you got your bit of land. If someone comes on your land, you can shoot them. Like that's your bit of land, isn't it? Like that's yours.
You goddamn right.
Caveman style like ideology. Right, so we need to get rid of that, apart from the powerful people, obviously, and then we need to be able to be controlled, so then we can then interact, and that's when we'll eliminate war. Once we're fully submissive.
What do you mean you hope so? You're looking forward to that?
Yeah, man. What about the aliens? Go on then.
It gets a bit deep on that one. I don't know, that's controversial, but again, it's just an opinion, just something we've seen on social media.
Could be one for another podcast, I guess.
Yeah, bring the alien invasion in.
Getting sidetracked, haven't we, boys?
Yeah, we are. Well, what's the time?
I don't know.
We're on 55.
Oh, 55
Probably time
minutes.
to wind
Where
it up
was
a
the
bit.
cowboy?
Yeah, where was the
Adam,
cowboy?
was meant to wave your arm in the air.
At
when we
50,
were
yeah.
Is there anything you wanted to cover, Adam?
I
Did you
feel
wanna
like I
finish what you were saying
half
earlier?
said what I said, and I think I'm probably why I got a bit distracted was like, how do we get back onto that really? But I was just thinking about when I grew up in school, and there were I don't know, 15 minority people in my entire year, and I had such indifference. It wasn't about, oh, there's a black guy or there's an Asian guy. The only stuff that I got maybe that was handed down to me from my parents, there was one about holding my breath while I walked past Asian people. That was a thing that was conditioned into me from being a kid, because like my parents thought they smelled, that kind of thing, right? And it confused me that my parents had this view about these people that I was at school with and chatted with, and they were normal and they didn't smell. It was just a bit confusing from that perspective. And I think what it did to me is, you know, that thing with kids where if you prevent them from like interacting with a certain thing, you want to do the opposite. Yeah. And I found myself doing the opposite of, like, I had loads of questions. I just found myself, like, there was one guy that was like Asian and he followed Islam, like, and again, that's another kind of value that my parents held about, like, oh, Christian's good, all that. I wanted to know about his side of things and his perspective and what's it like and what does this mean and what are the values that you follow, and it just made me a more curious person, I think, as a result. And I'm thinking, like, I became really engaged, Liam, when you were talking about your personal experience, because again, it was like nothing that I've ever found out about from people about their experience, and it's interesting hearing about some of the, like, the things that I might think, oh, that doesn't sound too bad, actually hit really home, like, for you. That I've never had to experience. I mean, I was bullied as a kid, but I mean, I'm not for like anything about my skin colour, let's say, or my history or my background or anything like that. It was just sometimes you're a target, do you know what I mean? But yeah, it was...
I like what you've done though, Adam. Rather than taking what your parents said and absorbing it and taking it for gospel, it almost turned you the opposite.
But I don't understand why there's a difference, because we talked earlier about, I know we're getting near the end now. I know we talked earlier about like things that are handed down, and you know, Rogan had this amazing guy on the podcast that was essentially converting like far right people, because people would have conversations with him and find out he's actually, as a wicked episode, finding out about their history and thinking, oh, actually they're not that bad. And this sort of the sort of veil is lifted. These opinions that I had about these people, I'm now seeing different, and how I feel that must be quite devastating as well, because like you could sort of get into the heads of those people thinking, I've excluded them, I've had all these judgments about my entire life, I'm in my 40s or 50s or whatever it might be, and I've completely like missed out on what could have been good relationships with people.
Yeah, definitely.
And like,
so they're stubborn and they don't want to change now.
I've
been like this forever, I'm not changing.
So why do some people like completely get with it? Because and why do some people change?
Everyone's different. I was about to say that you are lucky that you're fortunate enough that your mentality and you're questioning everything, because you question things. That's
if you just
believed it, and this is why I like what we do for work, because when we get 1,000 young people to take part in a program from all different walks of life, all different ethnic backgrounds, races, religions, a lot of those young people come to us 16, 17 years old, and I guarantee 50% of them have got a slight bit of racism passed down through the elders for generations. Yeah. We get them in one playing field, on one activity centre, spend a week together, racism is gone. Yeah. Not completely, you can't ever...
Oh, sounds like you got the cure, mate.
But you are right, though, you are right.
Get them working together. If you don't work with others and mix with other people and socially mix, you're never going to bloody know. Don't do what Adam just said and waste your whole life going, I'm going to hold my breath while I walk past that person because apparently they smell. That's BS.
That's what I mean, yeah.
That's a good point, because I'd say the difference now is, like, with the younger generation, all their friendship groups are intertwined with complete different cultures, colours. It's so
and
intertwined.
All the better for it.
Yeah.
And when you look like at the protests and stuff, it's all young people, all different colours.
Wicked, that's what I mean.
And I genuinely believe like the young people are like the ones that will like
change it up.
They're the ones that are bringing this change.
And it's good. It's needed. It's needed.
And just to kind of bring it to a close, that we talked about a solution earlier, does seem to be very much about the individuals and how you choose to operate, and maybe not taking certain things on board that might be generationally above you, and the access to information. I know there's misinformation out there and it can be negative, but there's also good positive stuff as well. And not to let perhaps your parental values overwhelm your choices in life might be part of that, and that seems to be how a lot of change might occur. But there's an argument for it is better than it was before. Perhaps that's a subject for another pod. But yeah, so thanks guys. I think we'll wrap up now. Nice one, and we've been here to listen.
Peace out.